Milton Berle said that if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. Nikki Bush is an advocate for preparing your children for the adult world and giving them the tools they need to be well-adjusted adults who can contribute to the economy. But how much is too much? In a day and age where kids suffer anxiety attacks and burnout, where do we draw the line? She's a contributor to many TV and radio platforms, and she's a speaker and author of the best-selling book, Future-Proof Your Child, amongst others. Let's welcome Nikki Bush to Real Talk. Hello, Nikki.
Thank you, Azania.
Great to see you again.
And you.
You know, Nikki, children don't deal with failure or pressures in the same way that adults do. So as parents, how do we help them manage the potential for failure? Because entrepreneurship is filled with these pitfalls.
Absolutely. And I talk a lot about the fact that failure is an option, which is almost the opposite to what we do with them in school, because we need them to pass, we need them to do well, we need to check all the boxes, and yet entrepreneurship and failure go hand in hand. So we need innovative thinking, we need creative, out-of-the-box thinking, but in order to come up with the right idea, you have to fail many, many times over, which is why we talk about serial entrepreneurs, or why we talk about the fact that mistakes are a very important part of learning. And children need to see their mistakes as failing forward. You said that earlier in the show, that it is a way to learn how not to do something in order to learn how to do something in a different way or better. And so as parents, we have to find ways to give our children safe ways to fail, safe opportunities to fail, and to try out their skills. And I think we almost become too analytical, and we start thinking too scientifically about entrepreneurial skills, when it actually, our children are surrounded by opportunities to try out those skills and develop them all the time. I think of a child who comes home from school with a list of raffle tickets. And it's so easy for mum or dad to take that list to work and sell them all, because you know what, everyone at the office will give me 20 Rand and it's done. And what we should also be doing, though, is giving our children the opportunity to sell themselves to family and friends. You know, we're all sitting ducks for our nieces and our nephews and our children. But it's to practice the selling, to go to the auntie or the uncle and say, this is what we're doing at school. We're raising funds for this. Would you like to buy a ticket so that you can win? It's pitching. And when you go and talk to these entrepreneurship incubators, these business incubators, it's all about learning how to pitch your ideas, which means presentation skills, communication skills. Bottom line is, everybody is in the business of selling. We are all selling something. We're selling something on this show right now, is the importance of the entrepreneurial mindset.
So that takes us into the realm where we are not just nurturing them and shaping them to get good grades, but this is a way for them to be well-rounded and really prepared for the challenges that life will bring their way as they become adults.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is that the world of work is changing daily. And 60 to 70% of the jobs our children will do have not yet been invented. We know that about 60 to 70% of our kids will have to be entrepreneurs. Even those who are employed will have a portfolio of jobs, and in that portfolio will be periods of unemployment. And during that time of unemployment, you may want to upskill or reskill yourself, because let's face it, our children are going to live to about 120 years of age. Whatever you study in your late teens and early 20s is not going to equip you for 80 years of working. You're going to have to keep learning, unlearning, and relearning all the time. And maybe during that time of unemployment, you might get to try out some ideas. You know, we talk about young people today, the millennials, having a side hustle.
In this gig economy, you have to.
And so something you're passionate about, that is an interest, can sometimes flourish and become the core of a business. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes we do jobs we don't necessarily, I don't want to say like. Okay, they pay the bills, but maybe it's not our core passion. But maybe they enable us to experience our core passion. So work can provide the money to experience our passion. And then we also have to remember that there is a massive skills shortage in the world. There are 40 million jobs that are unfilled. And a lot of those jobs are unfilled either because people don't have the right skills or because they're not prepared to do those jobs. Think plumbing, think electricians, think welding, think all those kind of artisan type jobs. There are so many around. You know, you start off being the plumber or the electrician, but then you become the employer of plumbers and electricians, and you start earning proper income, not a salary, but a much bigger income. So I think it really is about shifting our mindset about how the world of work operates.
Now, and you're so spot on, because parents also need to shift their mindset. So how should we nurture our children if we see that they have this entrepreneurial streak, that there's an interest in establishing and running their own businesses? Because for lots of us, it's like, oh, just do what you need to, just get through school, you'll see that afterwards. And that's for later, or businesses for later, when you finished your school.
Well, there's lots of things parents can do. Firstly, do not switch off the economic indicators when they come on the radio or the TV after the news.
Yes.
Because this is the lingo.
Yeah.
Okay. We live in a world where there is trading. Trading is business. There's always a buyer, there's always a seller. When you take your child to the shops when they're 5 years of age, who are we buying from? What are we buying? Pay the money over, let them play shop, fantasy play, but when you go to the shops, sometimes allow them to hand over the money, give them money to spend. Pocket money is a really good thing. And then also when you go to use services like the dentist, who is buying and what is the dentist selling? The dentist is selling time and expertise. We are paying for that. This is how the dentist makes money. When you have friends who come around for dinner, don't send the children away. Include them in the conversation.
Yes.
Talk about, you know, be part of that conversation. Listen to what people are doing.
Exposure. It's like exposing them
to your
different
friends
things.
who are entrepreneurs, who are in business. Let them ask questions. I have a friend whose son sells semi-precious stones as a business. Whenever friends come, they're allowed to sell, you know, those kinds of things. And letting them start that lemonade stand on the side of the road next,
but
you know,
how young
outside
is too
the house.
young, Nikki?
You know, I think these children are playing fantasy play shop in their preschool days. And then when they get into that sort of mid to upper level primary school, that's when they love to actually make something and get a return, a real return. Schools have entrepreneur days and market days. And that's also a lovely safe space in which to learn to buy and sell. And there's a lot of learning that can take place if we really ask the right questions and show our children what to do. And very often what we see, though, is parents running those stalls at entrepreneur days instead of the children. And I remember when we had market day, when my children were in that sort of grade 7 year, the kind of lessons were, well, you don't all get the corner expensive stand. You know, there are only 4 kids who
Someone's
can
got to be tucked in at the back and work really hard to get everybody there.
Exactly. So you have to sometimes take your produce to the market on a tray. And you have to go and say, I'm here, this is what I've got to sell.
So that's great training ground at schools, those that do anyway.
It's
doing
fabulous training ground. But I think what's important is the learning that happens also in the post-mortem of, okay, who sold the most and why? Who didn't sell so much and why? What can we learn from this? Because maybe it was bad positioning, maybe poor pricing, maybe we didn't read the market. We didn't know what the market really wanted. Maybe too many kids were selling donuts. You know, you can't have everyone selling the same thing. Who was innovative? So some of the most innovative products are when they get those glass Coke bottles and they put kids, you know, the teats from a baby bottle on top of a Coke bottle. Well, those are a smash hit. You know, making syringes with sweet condensed milk. Those are always a hit. But you could...
Innovation, thinking differently, out of the box, encouraging them to break away from the mold, because the world is going to be demanding of new ideas. It's going to need creativity.
Innovation will be the lifeblood of business in the future. And I think what we as parents need to acknowledge is that the top Fortune 500 companies are not going to be the big employers in the future. It's your small and medium-sized enterprises, and our children are going to have to create jobs for themselves because they may not necessarily be handed a job in the future.
Well, Nikki, we're going to break this down a little bit more after the break. Of course, my journey as a business owner has not been without its unique set of challenges. And I relate so much to the stories that you've heard today. Well, for all of us, getting started is the first big step. And after that, it's being resolute in the decision to never quit, no matter the obstacles, that thing that they call grit. So after the break, Nikki and I will try to answer your tweets and your WhatsApp voice notes. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to the last stretch of the show. You're watching Real Talk on SABC3. And to those of you who might not know, my name is Zania Mosaka, standing in for Anele while she takes some much-deserved rest. Well, I hope you are as motivated as I am after the guests that we've met on the show today. With youth unemployment at an all-time high in South Africa, one of the solutions to this may be doing more to mentor and assist in real tangible ways our aspirant young entrepreneurs. Parenting expert Nikki Bush is still with us, and we're taking a look at some of the comments that you've made on social media. And one from Sizwe says, yes, school teaches us to be employees and not employers. So kids should learn to draft proposals and business plans in the long run instead of applying for a house or car finance. We can apply for business finance in turn, create profits for ourselves, and therefore buy these homes and cars that we want to build that cash. That's the point that Sizwe makes. And Nikki, you know, the world has changed. We're finding that increasingly work is precarious. It's a gig economy. It's all about freelancing. So ultimately, all of our kids will need these entrepreneurial skills.
They will, and I speak to many young people between the ages of sort of 27 and 30 years of age. And the number of them who've already experienced either retrenchment or near retrenchment, because with the world of work changing, divisions of companies are falling away if they become obsolete, no longer relevant. Entire businesses no longer exist because what they did is no longer relevant today, because
and the role
maybe
of artificial intelligence is changing
so
businesses completely.
We've got machine learning, machines taking over jobs, but that doesn't mean that we won't reinvent ourselves and find different ways to work. And that's the thing with entrepreneurs, is having opportunity eyes and seeing the gaps in the market as they develop. And, you know, the creative side of our jobs will never die, but we need to learn how to harness the energy of machines, how to teach machines to do stuff for us. And, you know, this is going to be the future. We will be able to have people working for us and machines working for us.
Right. But one of the other things is not just creativity, but instilling in them an empathy, whether they start their own businesses and just the way the world is changing, they will need to fuse the two, creativity and empathy.
So I always say that those who will be able to combine high tech with high touch are the ones who are going to seriously succeed. And that means having empathy and compassion for human beings, being able to relate to others, being able to build relationships, being able to work as a team, online or offline, and also knowing yourself very well. And I think real entrepreneurs actually do know their strengths, their weaknesses, their passions. They know where it's at. It doesn't mean to say that you're always going to be doing work that you love.
Yes.
Because right now, you might be able to make money doing work you don't like, and it might just be for a season. And so we're going to have purpose-built companies for a reason or a season that will disappear in the next year, or they'll only be there for 6 months. And just like employers are starting to use freelancers. So we talk about the on-demand economy, the gig economy, and they don't have to employ people long-term anymore. They have a very specific job that needs doing, and they can employ somebody online to do that job without signing a long-term contract.
And sitting somewhere else in the
paying
world,
no medical
on the
aid,
other end.
paying no pension fund, none of the strings attached. Likewise, Those entrepreneurs who are micro-jobbing and spreading their risk over a number of clients are selling their services over the search engines, over the internet. So the barrier to entry has lowered. Yes. And you can try things out. I have a friend who qualified as a lawyer. He studied science and law. And one of the things he did in his spare time was he wrote about gaming. He sold himself on fiverr.com, which is one of these e-lance platforms, as being able to write articles about gaming. Now, he was not an expert gamer, but he was interested.
Yes.
And because he practiced it, he got better and better. And he is at the forefront of gaming in South Africa and marrying gaming to big brands.
Right.
And he is an outstanding young individual and a great example of how you create a portfolio of jobs in order to create job security, not a career.
But a lot of kids are also experiencing burnout at a younger and younger age. Just really sum up for us advice for parents on how they can intervene with and how to identify it if this does happen to their children.
So children who can't sleep, children who are showing a huge amount of anxiety, they might withdraw, they might obviously go to substance abuse. You know, I think the whole thing is to keep your relationship with your children in the center of everything. Because if you have an open and a good relationship with your kids, you can pick up the warning signs because they might just be a little bit off.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not what they say, it's what they don't say that we need to be monitoring. Bottom line is that we need to be feeding into their self-esteem, their self-worth. And that is more than just telling them they're a superstar. And it's more than them just getting A's or being in the first team. It's about them having self-belief. I am, I can, I will, and I can do so at will, not always under pressure.
That is powerful, Nikki. Incredibly powerful. I think we need to play that back as parents, you know, to remember that this is the approach. Because a lot of us, we see our children go through this duress, through this stress, because they want to be high achievers. Thank you so much for joining us.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much to our parenting expert, Nikki Bush. So much to reflect on, and she perfectly summed it up for us today. And to my earlier guests, Lydia and then Rabedzwe and Naledi, in the hands of such young ladies, I'm sure that you'll agree the future of our country is in very good hands. Well, join me again tomorrow for a very special day. It's a bit more special than most for me, and we'll talk about old versus the new school in music and how to reinvent yourself in the game. And just like that, it's the end of my first live show on Real Talk. I am beside myself with joy. But let's do it again tomorrow, 6 p.m. on SABC3. It's a date. Good night.